It's no surprise the upcoming presidential election might have you speculating about what's ahead. And those unanswered thoughts can quickly spiral, causing fear and uncertainty to swirl through your mind. So if you have been considering buying or selling a home this year, you're probably curious about what the election might mean for the housing market, and if it's still a good time to make your move. Here's the good news that may surprise you. Typically, presidential elections have only had a small, temporary impact on the housing market. But your questions are definitely worth answering so you don't have to pause your plans in the meantime. Here's a look at decades of data that shows exactly what happens to home sales, prices, and mortgage rates in previous presidential election cycles so you can move forward with the facts as you weigh the pros and cons of your home ownership decision. In the month leading up to a presidential election from October to November, there's typically a slight slowdown in home sales. Some consumers will simply wait it out before they make their purchase decision. However, it's important to know this slowdown is small and temporary. Historically, home sales bounce right back and continue to rise the following year. In fact, data from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the National Association of Realtors show after 9 of the last 11 presidential elections, home sales went up the year after the election, and it's been happening consistently since the early 1990s. You may also be wondering about home prices. Do prices come down during the election year? Not typically. As presidential appraiser and housing analyst Ryan Lindquist notes, an election year doesn't alter the price trend that is already happening in the market. Home prices generally rise over time regardless of an election cycle. So based on what history shows, you can expect the current pricing trend in your local market to likely continue, barring any unusual market or economic circumstances. The latest data from NAR reveals that 7 of the late 8 presidential elections, home prices increased the following year. The one outlier was from 2008 to 9, which was during the height of the housing market crash, which certainly wasn't a typical year. Today's market, however, is much more resilient, and while prices are moderately national, they are overall decline. And the third thing that's likely on your mind is mortgage rates, since they impact your monthly payment if you're financing home. Looking at the last 11 presidential election years, data from Freddie Mac shows mortgage rates decreased from July to November in 8 of them. And this year, we've already started to see that happen. Most experts also forecast mortgage rate will ease slightly throughout the rest of 24. If that happens, and all signs right now indicate it should, this year will continue to follow the trend of declining rates. So if you're looking to buy a home in the upcoming months, this could be great news for your purchasing power. What's the big takeaway? While presidential elections do have some impact on the housing market, the effects are usually minimal. As Lisa Stuvegart, chief at Bright MLS, says, historically the housing market doesn't tend to look very different in presidential election years compared to other years. For most buyers and sellers, elections don't have a major impact on their plans. While it's natural to feel a bit uncertain during an election year, history shows the housing market remains strong and resilient. And this means you don't have to pause your plans in the meantime. For help navigating the market during this election year, reach out and let's connect.